Welcome to the woods. First video really, apart from the little introduction the other day. I'm not sure how long this is going to go on, this one. Probably be a bit rambling, but I thought best start at the beginning. So I live off grid, in a cabin, in the middle of the woods. And in later videos we'll get on to the build and how I did it, and in this one I want to have a chat about why. Why would someone want to live in the middle of the woods in a cabin? And it's not an easy thing to answer. I kind of have a pat answer when people ask me, or if I feel like they need an explanation as to why I did it. And the straightforward answer is the only way I could see of getting a nice piece of land, enough to have the animals that I've got here, a 4-bedroomed house, without spending £1 million, was to do it myself. And that's the easy answer. But that doesn't really answer the why. Why would you? And I guess that started years ago. I remember sitting in a flat I had in Keynsham, between Bristol and Bath. Nice place. A lovely flat. Probably a little expensive for what I was doing at the time. I'd recently sold a pub that I owned. And I wasn't working. I had a little bit of money put aside and I was sat in this flat. And I was struck with a feeling that I'd had many times before. I was kind of looking at what I was going to do next, if I was going to start my own business or if I was going to go and work for someone else. And I was struck with it's not even a feeling, that actually it was all just bollocks. Everything was just not right. That I'd have to get up in the morning in my little box, get in my car, another little box, drive to work, spend 8 or 9 hours in a little box, probably looking at another little box, to get back in my car, to drive back to my house, to eat my tea in front of a little box, and do that every day. In order to what? In order to not do it for 2 days at the weekend, that I'd probably spend drinking too much, maybe 2 weeks holiday a year. If you're lucky, fly abroad for a week or 2. And then back to 8 or 9, maybe 10 hours a day. A lot of the time people doing stuff they really don't like to do. And then at the end of that, retire and do nothing. Have more time, but no money. Something just didn't sit right with me. And I'd had this feeling for a long time. And as I wasn't working, I thought, okay, maybe it's just you. Maybe you're just a lazy bastard. Maybe you just don't want to work. Just want that £1 million to fall out of the sky and everything will be hunky-dory. But I didn't think it was that. I couldn't get my head around a few things. I couldn't understand how technology had moved forward so fast. Incredibly fast. Just in my lifetime. Yet people were no better off. And I can only talk nationally about where I lived and the country I lived in, but I was fairly sure it was exactly the same everywhere else. Through all these advancements in medicine and technology, people didn't seem that much better off. They were still going to work for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, still doing things they didn't really want to be doing in order to have enough money to survive. Now, there were exceptions, there always are, but on the whole that's pretty much what it looked like to me. And I'd done a lot of stuff. I'd started several businesses, I'd owned several businesses, I'd worked for other people, I'd done everything from labouring on a building site and cleaning toilets in a factory to running a property business. So I decided to take the time and investigate some of the things I didn't understand. So I wanted to have a look at finance. I'd never studied economics. I went to art college for 3.5 years and did a degree in fine arts and graphic design. Didn't look at sociology or economics or anything like that, which is stuff that interested me. So I decided, okay, we'll look into money. That's a rabbit hole. And what I found at the end of my study, after looking into it, was that I was dead right. It is all bollocks. It's complete insanity. Now, I'm not going to go into too many details here, but the whole financial system worldwide, run by a very, very small collection of people, is absolutely corrupt, insane and bollocks. And I'm sorry for the expletives, but really, and after looking into it and kind of understanding how it worked and seeing it for what it is, just compounded that feeling I had that everything was not right. I couldn't understand how in the 1970s Volkswagen built a factory to produce the Volkswagen Golf and advertised everywhere, and it was held up as an amazing example of technology in the 70s, that to produce this car, which is the largest selling car ever, I think, and they were churning out Volkswagen Golfs. There was 200 people in that factory, and they actually used it as part of their advertising campaign. It was built by robots. The technology they had in the 70s allowed them to mass produce this vehicle with only 200 people. Yet in 1999, the factory down the road from where I was living was employing 3,000 people to produce less cars. So as much as technology had advanced over that 20-year period, didn't seem to make any difference. In fact, if anything, things seem to have gone backwards. So I started to look at other jobs and other positions and why they were even available nowadays. And after looking into it for about 6 months, I looked into all this stuff, and it is all bollocks. And today you're starting to see a lot of talk about self-driving vehicles and pubs with no staff, just vending machines. This has been on the cards for years and years and years. The terrifying thing now is that I still don't believe that that's going to make society any better for us. It should do, and it could do. But I don't think the people controlling this stuff have any interest in you and me. I don't think they have any interest in society at all. In fact, I'm fairly sure that we've been commodified to nothing more than a statistic on a spreadsheet. And in order for this system to continually move forward, if that's what you want to call it, they simply just need to keep us alive and at a level where we can consume. The fact that it's unsustainable doesn't bother them. The fact that people's lives are so atomised doesn't bother them. The fact that we're working within a financial constraint that is completely false doesn't bother them. So after looking into all of this and coming to the conclusion that it is all bollocks and it doesn't need to be this way, what did I do? Well, I can tell you I didn't go and build a cabin in the woods. I spoke to a few people who nodded in agreement. Yeah. But didn't really buy into it. To be honest, they weren't really bothered. And I get that. It's difficult to even look beyond earning enough money to pay for the kids' new shoes for school. I've got to get that deposit paid on the holiday, otherwise my missus will kill me. She'll go up the wall if we can't get to Turkey this year. I've just been laid off. I've got to find another job so I can pay the mortgage. When you're kept at that level, it's very difficult to see anything outside of that. But once you have done, it's very difficult to look at anything and not see the fault in it. So for a few years, I started another business. I did fairly well at it. I put a little bit of money aside, with the idea that I could no longer work within or participate within something I didn't agree with. But how do you get out of it? Now, self-sufficiency is one way. And the fact that my pat answer of I'd never be able to afford to go and buy this is right. Out of all the jobs I did, no matter what level I was at, I always seemed to end up broke. There were times where I was in the top 5% earning bracket of this country. Now, you'd think to be in the top 5% you'd have to be earning millions and millions. No, you don't. At the time I was looking into this, the top 5% was anything over 50,000. I think now it's over 80,000. And there were times I had earned over 50,000. That put me in the top 5% earners of this country. I didn't have anything. Nothing at all. I'd owned houses. My first house I'd bought in the early 80s went through that horrendous property crash and ended up being repossessed. I'd bought property after that and sold it and done other things with the money, put them into businesses. I'd had businesses, sold businesses, started businesses and folded them myself, gone and worked for other people. So I'd done a lot of stuff, and I'd been at different levels. I'd been unemployed, and I'd always been broke. And the reason, again, is obvious, and I know it. You live up to what you're earning. So if you're earning £100 a week, your outgoings are going to be £100 a week. And if you're earning £1,000 a week, guess what? Your outgoings are going to end up being £1,000 a week relatively quickly. You live up to the level of your income, which will leave you broke. Maybe at a different level, but broke. So I decided to look at how I could interact with this system less. That doesn't mean I don't work. I've still got a business and I still have to go and earn money. But slowly, I could see a way how I could reduce the amount of time I had to put into that to survive. And that's why I live in a cabin in the woods. As much as it is beautiful here, and everyone who comes up has always said what a beautiful place and how lucky I am, that wasn't the reason for it. The reason was that the society I lived and worked in is bollocks. And that most people will never get to that point of understanding that. Merely buying into it, working 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and your reward for that is your 2 weeks in Marbella and your weekend down the pub, and then back to it until you're 70. If you get to 70 and then retire, have twice as much time and half as much money, and then 5 years later, adios. Sounds a bit like the beginning of Train Spotting, doesn't it? Choose a telly, stuff food in your face, end up pissing it all away in a nursing home. Something is very wrong when we can put a man on the moon, yet Ethel, who's 98, is probably going to freeze to death in winter because she can't turn the heating on. Yeah, we went wrong somewhere. So hopefully, as these videos go on, as much as talking about the off-grid thing, we'll talk about what went wrong. And we'll talk about maybe different ways we may be able to put things right. Anyway, I know I ramble on. If you enjoyed this, please just hit the like button and share it with a couple of your mates. I'll speak to you soon, people.